Forgotten animes. There's a lot of animes that get lost in the abyss of animations for numbers of reasons. Bad animation, terrible story, or it just suddenly stops airing. And once you get lost in the abyss of animation, it's hard for you to make a return. So last week, as I was doom scrolling on TikTok, I ran across this Escanor edit, and my god, it brought me back to the good old days of watching 7 Deadly Sins. So I thought, let me watch the show again because I haven't watched it in about 6 years. I don't know why I randomly stopped, and my god, now I know why I randomly stopped. The animation of 7 Deadly Sins turned into complete shit. I thought Blue Lock Season 2 was the worst animation I'd ever seen, but 7 Deadly Sins has to take the crown. I don't know how 7 Deadly Sins fell off so hard. I remember back in 2016, 2018, 7 Deadly Sins was on top of the world. Everybody was talking about it. But once 2019 hit, it just had a significant drop off. It's like Netflix saw the anime was doing good and they decided to turn it down a notch. It's like Netflix is allergic to making good animes, and I don't know why. They want their live actions to stay on top and they want their animations to not be up like that. This is one of the biggest bag fumbles Netflix has ever done. 7 Deadly Sins was rivaling some of the top animes coming out during that time. One of the biggest fights in 7 Deadly Sins aired during 2019. This fight was supposed to rival Sukuna versus Maharaga. It was supposed to rival Goku versus Jiren. It was one of the top fights that every 7 Deadly Sins fans was waiting for. Escanor versus Meliodas. Since the beginning of 7 Deadly Sins, people have been debating who's stronger, Escanor or Meliodas, and now it's finally a chance for us to see who's really the strongest. And Netflix just fumbled the ball because they turned this animation into complete shit. It was in complete frames. This is why this show 7 Deadly Sins got the nickname 7 Deadly Frames. They turned this nigga in Meliodas into a fucking blade and it looked horrible. When I watched that fight, I knew there was no saving 7 Deadly Sins no more because this is one of the most hyped fights that's ever supposed to come out in 7 Deadly Sins, and it looks terrible. Imagine Goku versus Jiren. The fight everyone was waiting for in the Tournament of Power looked this bad. People would have hated on Dragon Ball Z non-stop. They would have never let this up, and we should do the same for 7 Deadly Sins. We should never let this up. This was the peak fight that everyone's waiting for, and Netflix just fumbled the ball. Now obviously I'm not gonna give Netflix all the blame because Netflix is not animators, they're the streaming platform. But Netflix has to take some blame because they greenlit this shit to come out on their platform. So Netflix is not safe. The real problem here is the animation studios. If you did not know, the first 2 seasons of 7 Deadly Sins was animated by the studio called Studio A1, and they did a phenomenal job with it. They released a movie and all, but once they released the movie and they saw how poorly the movie did, it did not make them a lot of money. They decided to sell the rights over to Studio Dean, and once Studio Dean got their grimy little hands on 7 Deadly Sins, they just treated this show like it was complete shit. They did not put any effort into this show. They tried to pump out seasons as fast as possible, and they did not care what took a hit, and sadly the animation took a hit. And I don't know why Studio Dean would do that. It just seemed like they were in it for the money completely, because if you had a show like 7 Deadly Sins that had a wildly popular fan base, you would decide to take your time and treat it with care. But nope, Studio Dean just saw dollar signs, they just saw money, and they just decided to treat this show like it did not matter to them, and they released utter shit. Now let me show you some of my favorite bad animation moments in 7 Deadly Sins.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Now, after watching how bad the anime was, I decided to give the movies a shot because I'm like, no way they fumble both the anime and the movies. If the anime has bad animation, at least they took care of the movies and they treated it with respect. Man, I was completely wrong. One thing I hate more than bad animation is bad CGI. And I'm not a CGI hater. I actually don't have a problem if CGI is in anime. I'm not one of those guys that says CGI doesn't belong in animes. If it's done right and it looks good, I don't got a problem with it at all. But the 7 Deadly Sins movies, they did not do it right at all. As I'm sitting here watching these movies, it looks like I'm watching a Nintendo 3DS game in movie form. That's how bad this looked. It looked completely terrible. Now the fights were a little bit better than the animes. At least it was not in frames. The fights got better. It was actually CGI'd, but it still looked horrible. It was the biggest eyesore I'd seen in a minute. Now if we're being honest, people would not complain about bad animation if this show was a romance anime. But since it's not a romance anime and since it's a battle shonen, people are gonna complain about how poorly the animation is, because one thing battle shonens do well is having good animation. Like, let's be honest, battle shonens are not that interesting. The reason people really watch it is because of how great the fights are animated. Like, let's look at a show, for example, Demon Slayer. Now I love Demon Slayer deep down, but if I'm being honest, the story is mediocre. The only reason why I continue to watch Demon Slayer is because of how beautifully it's animated. The story is not nothing that's wowing me. If Demon Slayer had terrible animation and had this mediocre story, I would not watch this show, because the thing that's keeping me staying and the thing that's keeping me wanting to watch Demon Slayer again is because I know I'm gonna get some of the peak fights I've ever seen in my life. And same thing with Seven Deadly Sins, but they just took that away by ripping away the animation and leaving us with this mediocre story. Now that I'm left with bad animation and mediocre story, I don't want to watch this show no more, because the only thing that was keeping me around was the animation and the fights. Now that that's gone, I don't care anymore. I tried to come up with a coping mechanism that would help me cope with why Seven Deadly Sins is so bad. I tried to tell myself that maybe Seven Deadly Sins became so bad because they wanted people to start reading the manga instead of watching the anime so the manga sales could go up. But after a while, I realized that, yo, you're coping. Seven Deadly Sins is just ass and they don't care about it no more. Because if we're being honest, why the hell would they want people to read the manga rather than watch the animes? If we're being honest, anime will always be bigger than manga. Even though manga is the original source, the anime will always be bigger. No one wants to read fights. People want to see fights actually animated and fleshed out. And that's why anime will always be bigger. Even manga readers can agree with me on that. So after a while, I just realized that, yo, Seven Deadly Sins is ass and it's never going to be at the peak level that it was at before. It will just always be bad. There's no saving Seven Deadly Sins. Even though I love it, it was one of my favorite animes at that time. There's no saving this show. It just sucks now. Let's all pour one out for Seven Deadly Sins. It had a great 2-year run, but I think now it's officially time to say that Seven Deadly Sins is dead. Even though it's been dead for some years now, I can now cope with myself and tell myself that, yo, Seven Deadly Sins is dead. It's never coming back. It had a good run, but it's time for it to be left in the past. But if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and comment down below what your thoughts are on Seven Deadly Sins. But other than that, it's your boy Midnight, and I'm out. Peace out.